Good morning. It's 9 o'clock. We'll get started. Go ahead with roll call, please, Jen.
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jennifer Finley, Jim Molitor, Carol Langford, Danielle Matt, here, Bing Matt, James Steele Jr.,
Good morning.
Martin Charlo,
Morning.
Len Tutis, Lanice Trahan.
Thank you, Jen. Tom, you start us with a prayer.
I'd like to thank the Creator today for all the gifts that they have provided us. And we want to pray for all those that have lost loved ones. We want to pray for those that are sick and ill. They recover soon. We'd also like to pray for all those people that put themselves in harm's way, from our law enforcement, the medical, to military service. All those school teachers, educators that provide for our children as they learn their ABCs. We also want to pray for all those that are traveling during the holiday season. We also pray for a good year coming up. Do all these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Tom. We have minutes from December 5th. Any thoughts on the minutes? Changes?
Motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion by James to approve the December 5th minutes. Second by Tom. All in favor? We got unanimous.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, go ahead, Martin.
do we need the name of the contractor on page 4? When we're having a discussion with Vernon, KCC, I don't know if we need to identify the contractor. Take his name out.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Morning, Jennifer. We do have an agenda for today. Any additions? We got 3 walk-ins. Martin? Yep. Daniel? Motion by Martin, second by Jimmy, to approve the agenda with additions. All in favor? Unanimous. Yeah.
the minutes.
No, this is the agenda. You missed the minutes. All right. We can go to our first walk-in.
We have three. It'll be Jim Adams open for the first one and then closed for Jody Perez, and then Ramona will also be closed.
Okay. We got Jody. Mona.
And we have Tony Inkashola and Rich Jansen on, and Whisper and Dan will be logging on soon as well.
Thank you. Morning. Welcome. Go ahead. Look
Morning. Hey, Jimmy.
We can go out of regular into executive. Martin, go ahead.
Just attended the elders meeting last week. It was something that, when issues that are there are kind of, are the Cooney elders meeting in Elmo. I think that we really need to make sure that we are on top of our legislative people this fall and winter season to make sure that they're helping us out with all of our issues with hunting. There was an issue with, I was going to follow up with Polson Police about one of their officers and a remark they'd made to an elder. So just letting you know that. Also, the Western Montana Clinic is trying to open up the lake house in Polson across from north of St. Joe's, and hopefully they'll figure out a way to reopen it. So, thanks.
Thank you, Martin. Daniel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to say last week, the HRD put on an amazing event there for Christmas. Pat Matt did an amazing job. In the future, I would hope to see either department head or some part of our executive team be there to support their auxiliary staff. Their team just did such an amazing job putting on the event. NARS and their recovery group really banded together and helped set up, tear down. It was really great to see the community come together for that event. Also attended Kootenai Culture Committee, and I know we discussed it in our meeting yesterday about making sure we get a Wellbriety celebration, a Wellbriety conference set up and an elders conference, piggybacking on Len's push there for that. Just want to make sure we got that there in our minutes that we're looking at it, and we're going to make it happen this coming year. And we're also discussed making sure we get our homelessness coordinator position posted as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Carol, go ahead.
I went with, I was at the elders meeting with Martin and Danielle. And also I thought Martin did a really good job at explaining when some of the elders had questions about the elder or about one of our corporation's bonuses and other things. I thought he responded really good on the EKI stuff, because I think it really put a stop to some of the things that were kind of coming out, like there was something going on that we didn't know about. So, but I guess the question I have for council is really do the corporations respond to an advisory group? I mean, I think those questions are should be focused at us rather than, they wanted to bring the corporation in, and I don't know if that's appropriate. I think those questions should be responded to by the council like Martin did, and I thought he did a good job.
Thank you, Carol. Anything else, Morning? Well, the corporations can definitely talk to the elders. They can. And I do agree that with us as the shareholder, that those questions do come to us, as you're saying. Martin?
And they did request that EKI go talk to them. So I don't know if I should send that to Brian Lipscomb and send that request, or Vernon will invite him.
We can't direct them to, but we can make them aware of the invitation. Definitely. Don't want to move into there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think in maybe the next chair's meeting, we have an internal discussion about the scope of the discussions at the Tribal Elders Advisory meetings and what exactly the discussions are. Not to not respond, but just to define what is appropriate or what I remember, again, being here so damn long, how the cultural advisory committees were started and set up and the purpose for them. And so I don't want to just see elders meetings turn into district meetings. And I see that happening more and more outside of the scope or the authority of the intention of what the advisory committees are. So I would like to have an exercise on that internally. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Morning. Welcome.
Ready?
Yeah, go ahead, Mary Rose.
SQX Council, I'm before you today to talk to you about contract modification, increase in our contract. I'm currently contracted with Newfields LLC, and in the recent months, we received additional funding for some of the projects we're already working on. The number one project is Rive Creek. We got phase one of that particular project done, and we got additional funding through Montana DEQ and the EPA funding of the tribal response bill funding came through, and we would like to add that to our contract to continue Rive Creek, get that completed this month, and get started on the Hot Springs bathhouse. And I have some elder houses that I've been working on as well to get those wrapped up. So when we first entered into contract with Newfields was back in, I think it was 2022, and it's set to expire next September 2025 at the amount of $867,000. Well, we've got an increase of $652,484 for a total of $1,519,484. And I've already sent it through our legal as well as contracts and grants, and I'm just here to ask for approval and signature.
Questions for Mary Rose? Go ahead, Tom.
I would make the motion to
Thank you.
keep Mary Rose busy. She does a wonderful job. So I'd make the motion to the modification of the contractor agreement with Newfields.
Thank you.
Motion by Tom, second by Jimmy. All in favor? We are unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary Rose.
Lemlumption, happy holidays to all you. Hess Noel. Yep.
So the Custata building has been completely abated and it's already signed off on and.
Oh, you guys got it updated?
What's that?
You guys got it updated already?
No,
Oh.
I'm asking you, is.
Oh, yeah. From my standpoint, the Custata Hall is done. The contamination's all out of there. They had a little bit left on the roof. I believe that got taken care of. And now it's back in the hands of
Community.
tribal maintenance or
Okay,
community culture committee. I'm not sure who owns the building, but yeah, it's
All right.
ready to roll for whoever wants to get going in there and start updating it.
okay. Thank you, Mayor Rose. And,
Yep.
and Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the reason why I bring that up is there were a group of hunters from the Elmo community that wanted to use the building this winter, so they can have a place to go and skin out their game and cut up the meat and everything like that. So if the building is deemed safe, they were making the request to want to use the building. So just wanted to bring that up and hopefully get a consensus today. If I can tell these people that they can go ahead and start using it.
Question, Chair, or
Go ahead,
answer?
Mary Rose.
So we took all the asbestos lead out of there. So I would go and check that floor, make sure that the floor is safe for those hunters to go in there. So I don't know if maintenance has went in there and done any improvements since we've been out of there. So maybe check the building or have maintenance check it. For safety wise, before you go allowing them all to go in there, make sure the floor is good and sound and, okay. But all the contamination is moved out.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, Costado Hall is a historical building
Mhm.
because it was the very first place they made a full court shot.
Oh.
Just joking.
I'll have to remember that. All right, Lem.
Thanks, Mary Rose. Have a good day.
Yeah, I do know that people that have been using it have been keeping it pretty clean.
Steve, come on up. Ron, morning.
Good morning. Happy holidays, and hopefully we'll get through the rest of this year with everything in place. Today I'd like to present our org chart for forestry. There are some changes on the forestry side and we have some changes on the fire management side, and I'll let Ron handle those. So the biggest changes that we have on the forestry side is we added a position under forest development. See, where's that at? Matt Ogden, greenhouse, assistant greenhouse manager. We're adding a white bark pine reforester. And that position's covered under a grant from the America the Beautiful grant for the next 4.5 years, I believe. So that position is going to be a full-time position. Once we get the infrastructure constructed, all the greenhouses, there's going to be quite a important part of that infrastructure that's going to be dedicated to white bark pine and the restoration of those species in our forests. So this grant recognizes the importance of that, and so to start this process, we need to have a reforestation forester dedicated to that process. Once we get that going, then there's going to be quite a few positions underneath that we're going to need to fill eventually too, but we need to get a starting point. First thing we got to do is get the greenhouses built. But in the meantime, if we can get this position advertised, it's going to be looking for a needle in a haystack to try and fill this position. And we want to start as early as possible. And if we do pick somebody up that's good, then there'll be more than enough work to help with our other reforestation efforts in the forestry also. So we're not too concerned about keeping this person busy at this point. The other position we changed one of the positions under our FMIP shop, which is Sean DeFrance. We had both a roads forester and a transportation planner forester, which were both forester positions, and we changed one of those, I think the roads forester, to a NEPA forester. We've recognized that one of the bigger issues we're having in forestry right now is trying to move our projects through the NEPA process. And we think if we have a dedicated individual that's not under contract, but under a program, that they'll be able to better be able to stay on top of these projects, be able to push the individuals that need to be prodded a bit to get things in so we can try and get these projects through faster. And one of the solutions that we'd like to try is to bring a NEPA forester that can ride shotgun on these projects and try and get these things through and try and get more coordination and more participation in that process. So that's those are the two on the forestry side that are we'd like to be approved on this new org chart. So
Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, Steve, on the white bark pine forester, that position, that's really cool. It's under the grant for 4 years. Is that for the long term? Are you guys thinking about that there might be white bark pine seedlings available to other agencies? Is this a collaboration thing you're looking forward to in the future, like with the Forest Service or BLM?
Yeah, no, all of the above.
Okay.
So it's going to be, we're going to be a central hub for a lot of this activity. We're going to have a seed testing facility instead of having to send our seed out. We're going to do it there. We're going to open up those services to other entities, including the Forest Service, BLM, private,
So
whoever.
that would help them make it self-sustaining then?
Yeah, we hope that'll be what's going to happen.
Is that going to be part of a discussion we have on Thursday when Katie brings in the feds?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Steve, have we designated any staff people yet to start thinking outside of the box on how to market our timber?
We've been in consultation with a group that is been formed out of Missoula that is part of the remnants of the Pyramid Lumber Mill. I can't remember the name of the group, but we've signed off on a letter of support. There's a group from, I think it's not Germany, but one of those Germanic countries over there that's interested in building a facility at the site in White Swan, or White Swan, or Swan Lake. And so they're very interested. They're very interested in our tribal timber because the timber that we can provide, they want to do a finger joint type operation, which they're looking for smaller diameter trees with very tight rings. And we have a lot of stagnant, overcrowded stands which fit that bill that can produce that kind of material that would work excellent for what they're trying to do. So yeah, we're looking at supporting that effort. We had a pretty positive meeting with a couple of the folks, but there's still it's a tough road right now for our loggers. Our loggers are having, they have very little opportunity right now.
How many mills do we have that we're selling to?
We have Thompson River, and we have Weyerhaeuser, and the mill out of Deer Lodge is trying to get into the game, but they're having trouble. It's such a long distance trying to pay enough to get our loggers interested in bringing their material that far over. It's pretty expensive. So until another entity, I mean, Stoltz up in Libby, I think, hasn't been part of our infrastructure for a while. We keep trying to get them interested in our timber. Hasn't happened yet. But there's pretty limited options at this point. So we're looking for alternative avenues, including firewood. We're looking at small diameter type material. We're kind of maybe a pellet product. We're looking at other things. It's just they just aren't penciling out at this point. There's enough supply, so the prices for timber are very low right now. And it just doesn't create a very good market for us at this point. The only other options we have, we were talking with the county of Missoula a while back. We had a big meeting. They're talking about the railroad opening up again from maybe St. Regis, or not St. Regis, but Ravalli going west. And hopefully we can, if that were to happen, that we could utilize that to maybe transfer material west to some of the mills in Idaho or Washington. And that might open up more markets. So we're looking at stuff, what's available. Nothing's real promising. The one in Swan Lake is probably at least 3 to 4 years out before they would start accepting logs. They want to start from scratch. They want to buy the property and then tear it down and then rebuild it, more automized type plant with less labor, requirement.
Okay.
So those
Yeah.
are the things we're looking at.
All right, thanks, Steve. Yeah, that's pretty tough. I think we just need to put, more staff emphasis on trying to market our timber and, especially with the, potential use of the railroad. You know, it's just tough because, timber sales used to be one of our top revenue
know.
makers.
I lived the good days. You
And
did
so
too.
So here we are. So anyway, thank you, Steve. Days.
Yeah.
Ben, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After our meeting last week down in San Diego, we heard a lot of the same thing. From a lot of tribes are going through the same thing as we are. You know, there's no market out there for the timber. You know, and I'm glad that you guys are talking about this white bark pine issue because there was some talk about things, they're gonna try to do things like this too elsewhere. But you don't have the warehouses and places, greenhouses and stuff to put them like that. But they were talking about CSKT quite a bit down there. You know, it's good to hear all that talk about the tribe, about our tribe, what you guys are doing. And it's getting around the country here that they know that you're doing this kind of stuff, you know, and the funding that's out there that they were talking about, there's quite a bit of funding out there for even for fires and also for forestry. You know, and there's a lot of funding out there. The guys just gotta have to just get in there and start pushing around like the rest of them and see if you can get that stuff, you know. But it was a good meeting. I really enjoyed that meeting down here. And I was supposed to make a report today, but I forgot all my material at home. But anyway, it's good to hear that, you know, that you guys are doing those kind of things, and I commend you for that. You know, it's good that you're looking into this kind of work, and especially the fires this year coming up, you know, and whatnot. And like you say, there's funding out there for you. They gotta just buckle down and put your nose to the grind and get it to you, you know. But it's there, you know. And issue still with the payment and whatnot, where these tribal firefighters are still up in the air yet, you know. But it sounds like it might happen where they're going to be paid and be paid of what everybody else is going to be paid too. So it was quite a little seminar with that project. And I really enjoyed that. Down there listening to all that, what's going on. And I'm not just and it's not just our tribe that's going through it. It's pretty much every tribe in the country has to deal with timber. They're going through the same thing with you.
Thank you for understanding that those conditions. It's important that, you know, that there's a realization that it's not the way it used to be. We're working real hard on trying to accommodate. Well, our primary focus right now is really not volume and value. We're just trying to treat the forest. We want to treat acres. We want to enhance our forest to for the benefit of the tribe. We know we're not the king of the hill anymore, like back in the 70s and 80s when, you know, revenue from the forestry was heavily relied on. But we do want to, you know, a byproduct of us treating acres is generally some revenue and a lot of jobs. So that's where we want to go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree, being that the market's not there and we still need to manage our forest because it's our forest. But I guess I'm still curious about the carbon issue, or carbon credits. That is that still a big thing out there that people are still focusing on, that to bring some revenue in for themselves? Is that still big?
It's still a thing. We still get approached quite a bit from different entities. There's a lot of different entities out there, a lot of different markets. so far, we haven't come across a situation that we feel is beneficial in the long run. I mean, there's some real short-term benefits that we could get out of it, but then we lock ourselves into these very long-term contracts, 80, 100-year contracts, and which we have a lot of responsibilities, which are unfunded. You know, we get a big pay up front, but then there's a lot of responsibility that's unfunded past that.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, and then there's always the risk where we allocate acres to these carbon offset programs. And if those acres burn up, then we have to reallocate different acres. There's just a lot of different angles to this. And we're just a little tentative about signing on to anything at this point. We are still looking at them, but again, we're trying to find something that's probably more palatable for us as far as, because we still want to manage our forest rather than lock it up.
I really think that we need to, I was hoping it would improve, less years and, you know, that kind of thing, but it doesn't sound like it's changed much, and it sounds like it's actually, now we know more about it, and it is costly. It could be very costly at our expense if we went into it. So it's good to watch it, but I don't know if I definitely haven't been in favor of it. At times it sounds good, but you know, just for the upfront money and then all the other stuff behind it could put us into a bad situation. So thank you for keeping an eye on it.
It's really hard to say what's going to happen with this future administration, if they're going to, you know, support those markets or not too. I mean, who knows? Ron?
Ron, go ahead. I think we're ready for you.
So we'll go to the far right-hand side. On the RTRL position, it's vacant now. Whitney Molitor is taking a new position. We've put a crew underneath that position, so we'll be looking to advertise at some point. This is all in the fuel section that's under Daryl. We created a vacant fire and fuel specialist position, and we kind of hope Art's going to move into that at some point, but it's going to be a professional position. It's above Art. Art's finishing up his degree at SKC. We added more heavy equipment operators. Right now, a lot of our work is done through excavators, doing a lot of machine piling, doing mulching, things of that nature. The day of the thinning crew is kind of over, and it's a good way to operate. And then when we get fire suppression, we roll these guys right into a dozer assignment and skidgens and attack fires. We did put some positions underneath the planners, and we're hoping that those positions would be filled at some point when we know those guys are moving on. As some level of transition, that we get somebody in there that learns the position and can operate and understand. The other thought is, if we still struggle with NEPA on timber sales, that we may have to do some of the work ourselves and layout and things of that nature, and that individual is going to need someone to go out in the field and lay things out. We have a vacant LiDAR specialist position right underneath Daryl. LiDAR, does everyone know what LiDAR is? Okay, it's, so we got flown, Boise, NIFC paid for us to get flown by an aircraft that sent down a sensor and recorded data, tree data, for the entire reservation. And forestry's using it as a planning tool. You can see the largest tree on the reservation, and so it's instead of doing stand exams like we used to, they're incorporating this, and this gives you a heads up of what's going on. You can do some things with it, whiz bang, risk assessments, things of that nature. Hopefully find volume, hopefully do a lot of the field work, looking at a computer image. You want to add to that, Stephen? You got any?
Yeah.
Oh, CFI.
We did our last CFI in 2020. We're just now doing the inventory analysis. We got a contractor put that together for us, which will give us a report of all our CFI data. And everybody knows what the CFI is. We got 500 plots spread out across the reservation that we collect data, and then we compile that, and it gives us, you know, how our trees, our forests are growing. if they're, you know, what their growth is, how much we have out there, stuff like that, insect and disease issues. But the LiDAR is really a very precise tool, more so than, you know, the aerial photography or the satellite imagery you used to get. It now is able to analyze trees down to like 2 inches. You know, it'll take a picture and say, this species of tree here is the dominant species, and this is the size class. And so we can break our forest up into stands more easily just with that one image. And it gives us the opportunity to make an analysis of our management areas that we want to look at, give us an estimate of volumes that are in those and where the volume's at and where we have issues. So we can direct our focus when we're out there reconning and how we're going to lay out timber sales, how we're going to approach timber sales, that much more easier than rather than searching, you know, and find. So it's a very, very new tool. Everybody is into it. It's very expensive. I think we've spent like $3 million with a lot of funding from the BIA and other programs to get to where we're at now. But there's more coming in that they're going to help us put analysis that we can do the analysis and they can do some analysis. I think the first one coming up that Ron alluded to was the fire risk assessment. It's trying to figure out where our highest risk of fire based on a different criteria of fuels and homes and properties and stuff like that. So we'll be able to say, this is our most important area we need to treat. This is the next important area. This is where we need to focus on treatments. So there's a lot of good things that can come out of this LiDAR. And if we have somebody in place that understands it, it's even more power. So.
And we just received other information from, who was it that did LiDAR and did part of our res, and they sent us that data. It was delivered to you by email.
Who's doing it?
Yeah, I just sent over a hard drive that you should have got.
See, now that was something that we ordered from USDA 6 years ago. And that was less, it was like 2-foot pixels versus the 4-inch pixels I think we're getting with LiDAR. And we're just now getting it. And we only paid like $40,000 for it then. But it was something because we didn't have LiDAR. We didn't think we were going to get LiDAR when we ordered it. And then right about a couple of months after that happened, we got money from Portland to do LiDAR. So we still have it. It might be something we could use. We just haven't opened it up yet.
Oh, okay. And then the other thing was a couple instruments for doing, is it ground LiDAR?
Yeah. Yeah, terrestrial LiDAR. Yeah, so we're trying to get, so we can go down and do plot level data. LiDAR has a hard time penetrating canopies, doesn't pick up the understory as well as maybe we would like. And a lot of the fuels treatments, a lot of things we're trying to take out of the flaming front is below the canopy. So it's going to help us in terms of fuels monitoring treatments pre and post and show effectiveness. I'm hoping that's going to be a tool that would do things quickly. Of course, we all think it's going to be great. So it's going to take us a while, especially us old dogs, where we commit to it, where we think, yeah, it is right. Because a hard time thinking a jet can tell me where the biggest white bark pine tree is on the reservation, but they're claiming it can. And I know Steve's got some folks out there verifying and validating some of the data that we're receiving, but it's interesting. It collects all the tree data, and you can buy species. And it's a very valuable tool. Once we get it honed in, I think it's going to be a value to the tribes, definitely.
Other questions? Those are all the positions that you were talking about?
No, so we did add a training specialist. So Buttercup retired. Jim Claremont used to be our assistant dispatcher and a training specialist. We separated those duties, so we'll have a training specialist. And we added an assistant dispatcher just to the volume of work that we're doing. We feel it'd be nice to have 3 dispatchers in there. We'd have 2 on every day. I don't think we're funded yet to do that, but we're putting that position on, and we'll definitely battle for funding. The vacant crew supervisor is going to be above the crews. All the engine crews, all the fuels crews are lined up under that individual. That person will be the next either operations specialist or fuels manager is kind of what we're thinking. So they're going to be in a position to work and serve above the crew, be ahead of the crew, and be coordinating with operations if we've got a wildfire, or fuels if we're doing fuels work, and just, I think, add efficiencies. We've got 40 folks on the fuels crew, engine crew. It's a lot of people, a lot of moving parts, so it's nice to be able to have somebody there to manage that for us. We've changed, so we've got a lot of vacancies in the administrative side. We added an aviation manager above Todd, and the helicopter and the air attack and the seat manager. We do not have anybody that's over just the aviation. And we've got one of the bigger aviation programs, well, certainly in the BIA and other agencies. I mean, we've got a lot of aviation assets that are attached to us, and we'd like to have someone that was solely in charge of overseeing those. And we'll be battling for some funding to serve that, to get that position filled. Yep.
Just a personnel question. I see Todd Couture. Todd's been there for years and years and years. Any reason why we just don't promote him into the aviation manager position?
Is it my baldness? You can just read my mind. I know you're right where I want to go. I think we have Todd Couture who would absolutely fit that mold. And I think you're absolutely right that he should be promoted up there. It's a new position we'll advertise, but I think, the way it's written, it'd be tough for anybody to outcompete Todd. He's been our helicopter manager for 24 years. He's a seat manager, and he's also an air attack trainee. And he's been filling that position for me ever since 17. Anytime we get additional aircraft into that spot, I pulled Todd from the aviation, from the helicopter, and I put him in charge of all that because he manages it well. He knows all the players in the region, and he's good. He plays that role very well. So absolutely, I think we've got that position filled. The administration, so we've just changed titles, but I tell you what, when we lost Patty, I saw a hole in our administration where we've got things set up. We need to be cross-pollinating down at the administration side. When fires start going, we need a lot of people that know how to do a lot of different things, just in case people do leave or something happens. And I saw that this year, and that's the only other adjustment to this organizational chart on our side. We did pull a lot of the names because a lot of people are moving. And I think we'll leave it that way. And we changed some of the numbers in the crew, knowing that we'll have fluctuation, meaning we won't have a bunch of engine bosses, but we may have more senior firefighters that'll eventually be engine bosses. And we just built a lot of strength so we could pull people in at different positions, because right now, not a lot of people are coming with those quals. I hope that makes sense. That's the end of my report for our org chart changes.
Good, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would make the motion to approve the December 2nd, 2024 forestry organizational chart as presented.
Motion by Tom, second by Bing. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. So now we gotta get a little cleanup here. We got a couple of JEs we need to present because of the timing of the JE is back in the before. Now we have to have council approval with these. So some of these JEs, like this one here, is a forestry one. The justification is that discharge occurred in May and was posted incorrectly as a credit, not a debit. So this JE corrects that. That's for, I think, $393. So we're just correcting the account. The other Next JE for forestry would be, this one here. The justification, we go back just a little second, go back to the initial page. This money was received in fiscal year 23. However, the tribal bills to collect that were done to recognize the revenue didn't post until 24. This JE corrects the revenue balance for fiscal year 24. So that's the other one that's because of the timing of it. Different fiscal year, we're correcting that account. And I think in the next page, we'll see the amount. And it's for $144,000. And it goes into our greenhouse account 3801. I think it's just the sub account. It got put in the wrong sub account. Now it's going to be put in the right account. And so that corrects that error. And I think the next two are the fire ones.
Yeah, and so JEs aren't really in my wheelhouse, but I'll give them a shot. I talked with Kelly Parker and Patty Claremont, who retired, but has been working more than all of us in the last 3 weeks for us. Thank God for Patty Claremont. So we had a GSA bill for $59 on Division of Fire JE 24065. And so that this JE is putting it into the right account. So it was $59.64 posted in March. And this JE corrects that. The next journal entry would be 24057. And we have a clearinghouse accounts 3814 that everyone that goes to Oklahoma or on assignments, that's where we capture those charges so that when we get reimbursed, we kind of balance that book. And what Kelly Parker and Patty decided to do is pull all of those out and reestablish them into the appropriate line items, line of accounting. And so this JE pulled everything out of that 3814 and put it in the right line of accounting. That's as best as I can explain it.
Yeah.
How does this happen? Is it just a mistake, that you put it in the wrong account or?
So my understanding, and this was talking with Kelly, and she wanted for me to relay the message to you folks that a lot of this was happening during the transition period when Patty was retiring. We were trying to put new people in. We were trying to get all these things done with people that didn't always understand exactly what was happening. So it was kind of a mistake mistakes that were made because of new people trying to rectify these very, very complicated. And I mean, you see the piles of the paperwork that goes along with these credits, especially during the fire season. And these things just got kind of passed through and overlooked, and now they're being caught, and now we're trying to rectify them.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I guess the reason why I asked the question is because I don't think it needs to be in here. I think it needs to be in a process up there with Greg and his staff and just correct it. It's not anything intentional.
We were just given direction that
I know,
we had to have this.
I'm not trying to get on you. I'm just saying that, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to let them know up there that there's a process that they can handle up there to not have you come in and have to explain a mistake. I mean, we all make mistakes. So that's what I'm trying to say is that
I think we're going down that way. Trying to schedule a meeting with all the people that run in that setting. Kelly Parker, Katie Miller, and others. So they want to know about our reimbursements. They kind of want to know about this account. I think we inappropriately used this account. It should have been just used for burns that we do for NRD or within the tribe. And so we're going to have a meeting, I think, back to your point, just to try to align everyone. People have moved in different positions, and the complexities that are wrapped into the financial side of this tribe and 638 agreements and cooperative agreements and there's a lot to it. And I think I'm learning that now. There's a lot to fighting in fire, but there's a lot more to this. And it seems like this is the fire that will never go out. And so the more training and talking, I think, as we transition people out, I think is important for us. So appreciate that.
Thank God for the people upstairs because really they do keep us out of a lot of trouble and make sure that we continue to get the money that is coming in, but no fault for you guys. I mean, got new people, it happened.
No, we really appreciate the people upstairs too. They've helped us out a lot. We have questions, they're usually there to answer our questions, so. We don't understand all this. I'll be honest, I don't understand it to as full as I should. I'm learning, but it's a lot.
Absolutely.
Other questions about journal entries? Motion by Tom, accept the journal entries that are gonna fix all the problems we got. Second by Danielle. All in favor? Unanimous. And, Carol, I will check into what Greg required him to get here.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Good comments. Appreciate it. Yeah, Bing, and if you know where you want me to focus my attention on finding funding, just let me know. I'll be all over it.
I think we can go ahead. We've got James on the line, so. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. Today, we're here to request some contract mods for period of performance. We're gonna start with task order 123. And, this is for the property and supply renovation out at Kicking Horse. There is no dollar change, just time. This period of performance where we are wanting to extend it to February 29th of 2025.
Go ahead, Carol.
There's no financial extension, it's just a time.
Correct.
Looks like it went down a little. Original was 590 and now it's 500? Or am I mistaken?
No, that one was 500.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the time extension.
This is mod, what's the number? 123. 123? Carol, make motion to approve mod 123. Danielle, second. All in favor? We got unanimous with, Martin out of the room.
23. Oh, okay. The next item is task order 127. And again, this is just for a contract mod for a period of performance to lengthen it to 4/30/25, with the reason being the flood at Ronan Forestry. He's not gonna be able to get in there and put the fence in until it dries out a little bit. The bio building roof, which is on that same task order down at the Bison Range, will be completed in time and ready to go for winter, the rest of winter. Okay.
Who's doing the fence?
Barrier fencing.
Approve a modification for fencing to extend the period, April 30th, 2025.
One more question. We do have tribal members who fence, right? But they just didn't bid?
Correct.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Motion by Carol to accept the modification to 127. Second by Danielle. All in favor? It's unanimous with, Martin out of the room.
Now, the next, the next three task orders we are requesting approval for are ARPA related, and they're broken up. One is old fire control task order 132, which we'll look at first is we're not sure on the ARPA funding. So we're splitting it up. So if we have to add more, we can add this final one, which is task order 134. If the spending is not available, then we will just go with the first two task orders. The old fire control, we are repairing the roof, doors and windows, electrical, redoing the generator, actually hooking up outlets for generator, from the generator for rooms for the 24/7 program, which will be moved in there while the Dewar building is being built. So we got to renovate a couple of rooms for 24/7. And again, HVAC also, HVAC, electrical, doors and windows and roofing for the old fire control in the amount of $459,706.
Any questions about the task order 132? I'd entertain a motion. Motion by Carol. Second by Danielle. All in favor? Unanimous with Len out of the room?
Now, on page 46, task order 133, again is ARPA. It involves HVAC, roofing, doors and windows at various sites across the reservation. This task order is in the amount of $791,389.
Any questions about 133? Motion by Martin. Second by Bing. All in favor? Unanimous with Len out of the room?
Task order 134 is in the amount of $2.5 million, which would include siding, doors, window, HVAC on the remaining buildings, depending on funding available through the ARPA.
Any questions about task order 134? Motion by Martin. Can I get a second? Second by Bing. All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you. And now, that was all we needed SKMM for. Now we'll move to back to page 15. This is the court remodel discussion. We put it out for bid. We did get 2 bids. On page 16 and 17 are the prices of 1.25 million. And on page 17 of 1.97 million. That's the addition and the remodel of the courtroom as it is now. They had a grant for this project, and what is left on that grant is about $660,000. So basically, we're in here asking you, council, direction on which way we should go, if we should try to find money to go ahead with this bid, or are we looking at bigger things with, PL 280 coming down the pipe?
Any thoughts? Definitely outran their money. Go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. John, we didn't get a ton of detail on kind of what this bid was. I mean, I understand it's the rehab for the court, but we didn't get the actual kind of what, can you explain what we're gonna be doing over there?
Oh, okay. There is an addition off the north end of the court right now where the clerk of courts are. The new addition will be the courtroom. The remodel will include everything that is existing, the clerk of courts, the courtroom, on back to the restrooms. The restrooms will be remodeled so they are ADA compliant. And they will, also an employee restroom, because they need one. Let's put it that way. They need their own.
Go ahead, Martin.
Will it be creating any more office space? Because I know that's huge throughout the organization.
No. So where the clerk of courts is now, that will be a smaller courtroom, and actually it was supposed to be the jury room, but part of that was going to be turned into the healing court offices, I believe. So in essence, yes, there is 2 more offices built in. Just 2.
I'm sure we support the expansion of the court, but where do we find the money?
That's a good one.
He said that there's a grant money
It was a grant.
of about 600,000 left, and the low bid is 1.2 million, so it's outrun the money by 600,000. Go ahead, Danielle.
Mr. Chair, would tribal health ARPA dollars possibly help with this if they've got any left because of healing court? And that might be an avenue to look at.
Well, the higher bid is from an outfit out of Sydney. And so I believe that is part of it. The breakdown on the bids is not in here. I mean, because it gets pretty extensive, but I don't, I think the higher bid was probably researched a little bit better, instead of throwing some numbers down.
So the lower bid might have. cost
Might be a little low,
overruns.
yes.
Any other thoughts? I think we have to go and discuss whether we can find some money.
Yeah. I think when I talked to the architect and engineers about it, they thought the lower one might be a little low. The higher one, reasonable if you consider them buying motels and stuff for their staff, and then plus hiring locals. I mean, that takes up some of it, but just being a contractor from all the way across state is gonna cause a little more costs.
Any other thoughts? It looks like we're gonna have to revisit this.
Okay.
Don't know what more to tell you, John.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Amanda. Beth?
Thank you. Definitely good to turn it on. We are here for a signature for authorizing Joel Claremont, for his application for Flathead System Compact Water. We had been in before for a signature on the application. The Flathead Reservation Water Management Board has finalized their procedure for the FSCW, and it requires a letter. So we're just back for that and an update on the new process.
What is the new process?
I guess there was no reason to pause for questions. Any questions? Okay, moving on. Everything is pretty straightforward. There's a couple of things that were added for the burden of proof to demonstrate the purpose. Proposed use will have an adequate means of diversion for the plans for conveyance and pumps. They must provide a plan to adhere to the minimum flow requirements, pumping rates, and ecological flow requirement set forth in the abstract of the Flathead System Compact Water. The applicant must provide written proof or a letter from the council to use the portion of the Flathead System Compact Water, and the last would be water quality provision, so that they won't be polluting any of the water from any kind of runoff. You have anything to add?
Each activity that goes before the Flathead Reservation Board is new. And so we were here some time ago with Joel's application, but they weren't ready to ingest it, process it. And so they've come up with a procedure, and it adheres to the unitary ordinance, but the tribes, they've asked for a letter from the chair just showing that the tribes support the application. So we thought this would be an opportunity just to come in and refresh you on that process that's out there. They then, so as soon as we have that signature, we will transmit the full application. Then they, per the ordinance, go through up to 180-day review process. So the things, we need a technical submittal. So what's the pumping, how are they going to move the water, this, that, those kind of irrigation details. We need to, on behalf of the applicant, we prepared the volume and rate based on a alfalfa crop. So it's actually quite a bit more than the quota. And then we have to demonstrate that there will be no adverse effect to the tribe's water quality standards or natural resources. And they can reach out to Chauncey Means and your water quality division in that regard. And so those are all things that were established, but they finally have put a form together and developed a process that we can now engage in. And so that's really all that's changed. So nothing substantive has changed. They've just sort of put the four walls around the process. And we have another individual that came to visit with Amanda, who's shown, he leases tribal land in Moise. And has at least knocked on our door and shown interest. I pointed out to him that it's not as simple as the Claremont application where it's right at Buffalo Bridge. This one would have to climb a slope. It's across from the Moss Ranch, so there's about a 50-foot slope of mature juniper and pine. Not as easy to put a pipeline in, but so we're talking anyway. It's in Ken's court to come back to us with ideas on that. But we think the Claremont application will, when tribal members and others see that water going to use, that we'll have more interest because they can produce more hay, they can produce more corn, whatever they want to grow. But so really today, the process is fundamentally the same. The tribal lands lease is not changed at all. And it's just that the board is gelled on their process there. So, yeah. And that's really the extent of that. I think January 7th, we're going to come in with a doer update on projects and some ideas in the Little Bitter drainage. And then we should probably come in with a water rights update for yourselves specific to the Milltown water right, which is enforceable in April of 2025, and the Jocko ground and Camas groundwater management areas. So we might defer those since we didn't get those on your agenda. And those are ones we'd like the legal department to share that conversation with you. But that's all we're really seeking today is just a signature on a letter that just says the chair, the tribes understand and approve this use of their water right for flathead system compact water.
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, and thank you for that, Seth. Yeah, I remember having this discussion here a while ago. What concerns me is setting a precedent with the water users downstream where, I mean, are we going to have regulations set where we make a determination that we could only have X amount of projects like this downstream before there's an impact? You see what I'm saying? I just hate to have a process like this set in place, and then we're going to have a lot of non-member water users making the same request, but I support our tribal members trying to utilize the water for their operations. I just kind of get confused.
The other person that's knocked on our door is Ken Wasanbi. I won't get his last name right. I believe he's a tribal member of these tribes, but he's someone I don't know. But he's leasing the tribal lands, and I don't know how far he'll take it. There's certain hurdles that he would have to cross. But in terms of the future, nothing goes forward that you don't approve. And what you're saying is it's a cultural waterway, and cumulative levels of irrigation might disturb that unique attribute there. Every application will come before you before it's sort of advanced very far. And so we'll have, if we get snowballed, then we'll have a different conversation with you about, here's the map of the Lower Flathead River. Do you want to designate areas? Do you, how do you want to approach it more at a landscape level? We've only had one really pursue this at this point. So I guess, but you'll have recourse and avenue to weigh in however you want there. Yeah.
You mentioned that Joe will have access to more than a quota that he would have gotten under irrigation.
So what we do is that Amanda did the technical work to actually allow the applicant, Joel, to pump a full alfalfa water requirement, which is in the 24 to 26 inch range, whereas the quota is a foot or less. So it's, yes, we would, because the Flathead River is, a rich water resource, we wouldn't want to diminish their ability to get a full crop or a full agricultural production out of it. Yeah. So for an agricultural producer, there's quite a bit of enticement to want to access this water out of the Flathead River because of that, you'll hear agricultural producers talk about the holy grail is 5 tons of hay off an acre, right? And you should be able to achieve that. And out in other places, they can't even get close to that. So yes, that's kind of been our approach with this one. Yeah.
And then you talked about the rate that would be paid.
The rate is what Mark Couture brought into you for the lease arrangement, and you agreed to a 1-year rate with a revisitation based on their measuring the water. And we were not involved in that. We feel like the lands program interacts to produce a lease. We don't transmit the lease to the board either. We feel like that's a contractual arrangement. So I believe the lease this year is set at the FIP O&M rate, and then you retain the ability through the lands lease to revisit it in future years based on their water use. Yeah. So
Same rate for twice the water.
it is.
Interesting.
There's winners and losers in this world, and yeah, and that's just how this world unfortunately sees itself. Yeah, yeah.
You have other questions? Go ahead, Daniel.
So if somebody wanted to do this, is there a fee that they need to pay to take care of the technical work that team is doing on the board?
We have not come to you and said we should charge a fee, a doer to support a tribal member produce this application. The Flathead Reservation Board charges a fee of $500 to process the application. We're not even coming to you and saying, do you want to offset that fee? We're just assuming the applicant carries that cost. But we have, that may come, but we're not, nobody's barreling down the door at this time. I will point out though that it's again, I guess, not ripe or not ready yet, but the Flathead office has had lakeshore owners come to them, second homeowners on the lake and say, can we access the Flathead system compact water for lawn and garden uses? And I just didn't think somebody would have to come in with great sincerity and a plan before we'd even bring it to yourselves. It didn't seem that appealing of a use of this endowment of water to you. And nobody's come in with a formal sort of, they've just pulsed the Flathead board with that, but I don't know what to say. We'd bring that to you if we had a formal petition or application for that, but it wasn't the spirit and intent of that water for promoting the tribal future. So I don't know how you'd approach that. Maybe charge them an enormous amount of money for it or something like that. But we haven't gotten a formal petition for that yet. No.
Any other questions?
We just wanted to refresh on the topic is all quickly. And yeah.
Any objection to signing a letter supporting Joel's project? I think we're good.
Very good. Thank you for your time.
Morning, Zach. And board and everybody. We brought a team. You got a team. You were ahead of schedule? Oh.
Are we? Butts back up.
Uh-huh. I would never buy Joel's hay. That's all I can say. It's gonna be washed. It's gonna be washed out.
Oh, here.
Spiral bound. I like spiral bound.
Oh, that's gonna pull my teeth right out. Take my fillings right out.
I can do a caramel.
Pull my teeth right out.
First page after. Party.
Morning, Teresa.
Good morning. Good morning, tribal council members. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for making time for us. Our other board member, Mike McKee, he's not here today. He wanted to be sure that we expressed Merry Christmas. He's absent on an anniversary obligation. So he had to take a trip, much needed trip. The reason we're here today is to perform one of our most important duties. And if you think about the utility board, the power and duties of the board are described in the 638 contract plan of operations. And essentially there's 11 tasks in that plan of operation, or 11 duties, like to develop policies and procedures, to develop rates. It actually says we are to manage, maintain, repair, and replace the distribution system. But the reason we're here today is to make our formal annual report to the contractor. And in that report, we are to provide information on amounts expended, amounts budgeted, program accomplishments, and special problems, if any. Within the 638 contract, it requires that we come here in December and deliver this. So what we'd like to do today is start with the annual report, and each board member has some special areas that they would like to cover in the annual report. So with your permission, we'll just jump in. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Again, this one is the second annual report that we've developed since I've been on staff. And this one is a little better than last year. It has a lot of good information, has some great pictures. It tells the story of what we accomplished today in fiscal year 24. There's been a lot of accomplishment at Mission Valley Power. If we can go to if you open it up, your first page, there's a lot of stuff. The first page, and we like to call them facts about Mission Valley Power, fun facts. These are the kind of things that you should know, and you should be able to share if anybody asks you out on the street. We currently have 70 employees. That's not counting our 7 trainees, our Mission Valley Power DHRD trainees. So we really got about 77 employees right now. If you take a look at it, we have the number of meters on our system is about 21,000. This was as of 24. That number's gone up even since that point. the number of the miles of power lines that we have, 2,000 overhead power lines. So when you look outside and you see those power lines, we got about 2,000 miles worth. We have enough to line them up all the way from here to New York City if we wanted to. So it's a lot. We're a big service area. We have, 40,000 poles out there that we have to manage and make sure we take care of and keep them up to speed. So there, like we talk about, the service area is giant. It's like 1.2 million acres. You know that number because it's as big as the reservation is. So, there's a lot of space that we cover and we handle a lot of different customers throughout that area. Okay. On there, and one thing, and it's something I think it's always a nice thing to know. People always ask us, well, you guys just get your power from EKI. No, 95% of our power comes from BPA. I think just under 4% of our power comes from EKI, but that's for our low block power that gets waters to our irrigators. So, yeah, big, we hardly receive any of our power from EKI. Okay. Going to the next page, we'll go past that Denzel looking character on there and get to our utility board section.
It's a good color. The purple's a good color though. So if we look at the page with the utility board, we're quite unique because of the experience, the historical experience brought to the board with Cindy Benson and Gordon Fyand, board members since 1997. And then Dan and Mike McKee and myself, newer board members, but we have gelled and we're functioning well. And the board has worked incredibly hard in the past year, especially trying to achieve a publication of a rate increase. Our meetings are diverse and business oriented in the contract. It requires the board to conduct themselves and adopt policies and procedures that are prudent and business oriented. The next page with our consumer council, we've had the most meetings that we had with the Consumer Council lately were in the recommendation of the rate increase. But other than that, no complaints have gone forward to the Consumer Council. I think Shane Hendrickson will be appointing 2 new members to the Consumer Council soon because Mark Warner, the gentleman at the upper right, he resigned. So soon we'll have some new members.
I think, and we did get 2 new members.
Oh, good.
So I think I just received a letter from Shane that described that we have 2 more new members. If we can back up just a little bit back to our utility, our board of director members, when you talk about it, Gordon and Cindy, they've both been on our board for about 37 years. And, they've brought a wealth of knowledge, and I believe they both have goals to do one more term with us to get to that 40-year mark. And, it's so I think they've done a lot and they've provided me, when I think of the board and, me coming from the tribe, my closest, experience to a board was the council, so this is my first time having a board that, that I'm kind of responsible to get the things done. And they're all so engaged, and they've helped me get through this first year and a half and got me down to where we are today. So I just want to thank those guys for all they're doing.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question on the Consumer Council. Given the fact that it's a government owned, it's a nonprofit, is a Consumer Council actually necessary? Is it mandated under the contract, or is it something that could go away?
I'll respond to that question. In the original draft of the contract, back in the late 1980s, we put the Consumer Council in the contract because at that time, I'm sure several of you remember that we were sued. The predecessor to the joint board sued the tribes over the right to contract. And that suit was their philosophy, their position was you cannot contract a service under 638 that does not exclusively serve Indians. And they lost that argument. And we won. Yes, we can contract it, but to mitigate the kind of bad press is when we put the Consumer Council in. So it's a 7-member group that's been in the contract from the beginning. But if you move to a compact, I believe there is no requirement to have a Consumer Council, nor is there any requirement to have a utility board. If you move to a compact, you could make MVP a tribal department just like any other department. So having the utility board and the Consumer Council is a decision entirely up to the contractor.
Go ahead, Cindy.
One thing I would like to say about that though is as you go to other meetings like with the Western Montana G&T or other meetings where there's other utilities, they think having the Consumer Council is a very good idea, very unique, and they all think, wow, this is something we should look into, is what we've heard over the years about the Consumer Council.
And then we're looking now at the customer service page.
You know, if you take a look at all the numbers on the page, there are things that we kind of, we track the data just to see if there's some kind of trends that are happening out there. If you look at it, you know, everything is just kind of went along, you know, kind of slowly moved across. I think, you know, what our goal is to make sure we're communicating with our customers and doing everything we can to help them ensure that they have a successful experience with Mission Valley Power. So, you know, you look at all the different options that we allow for people to pay. We're continuing to work on those things. You know, every once in a while we get different calls when they talk about when they get into our phone system that it's kind of hard to manage and get through there. So we're really taking a look at that too. You know, as we move forward, we just want to make sure we're doing everything we can in our power to make sure people have the ability to make their payments and their requirements. So, you know, if you kind of look at that, and it's one of those things that, you know, our CRS staff spends a lot of time, you know, additional time trying to do this because we, you know, every couple of weeks we get into situations where we're at disconnect. So they're reaching out to everybody. We're doing the extra steps to make sure we've done everything in our power to get them in a good spot, which includes reaching out to LEAP. You know, that's kind of the employee. It's kind of the customer's job to reach out to LEAP, but we go out there and we reach out to LEAP and check on different people. We reach out to the state and do the same thing. So, you know, you should be very proud of that staff over there because they're doing everything they can to make sure people have their power on. And if you look at the next sheet, I'm sorry, we had everybody had a roll, everybody had a page, and I kind of made a mistake and looked at the wrong page and went out there. So I'll take the next page too, because it's one of the ones that's really close to my heart, and an accomplishment that the board and, especially with Teresa's experience with DHRD, it helped us, we had that little bit of, a fire there, and we're like, is there a way we can, get some more people here without charging our ratepayers to do it? And that was one of those, this is one of the things that came, one of the ideas that came out of there, that we created this workforce pilot project. And actually at today, one of the things we agreed to on our pilot project is to bring them out to different utilities and also bring them to meet the union. Today, they're at local 768 in Kalispell meeting with the union just to see what the union's all about there. And then they're going into Flathead Electricity and getting a tour of theirs and getting to meet different people over there. We're doing everything we can to make sure these guys are successful and they have an opportunity to go far above and beyond what they signed up for. And, again, this is part of it, meeting the utilities, but the other part is we went out and we got through SKC, half of them got their CDLs. So that's a extra snaps for that, because, even no matter what happens, if you walk out of there with a CDL and a year's worth of experience with Mission Valley Power, you're way ahead of where you got when you first walked into those doors. So half of our guys went through there and they passed their CDLs through the SKC 6-week, I think about 6 to 8 week program. The other half will start up here in 1st of January. So we're doing everything to, and I tell these guys, kind of like our apprentices, they're the bloodline for the utility. So we want to continue to develop and get them in place. If you take a look at those pictures, the one in the far on the bottom left is that mesh wiring where we're trying to strengthen the infrastructure. So we went out and wrapped these poles there in areas that are, there's a lot of, timber or, fire ability to fire ability. So we went and wrapped those poles about 6 feet up with this mesh wire that doesn't burn. It doesn't burn for the initial hit. So it's going to protect a lot of our poles, and they ran all the way from Kerr. They did all the poles all the way to Hot Springs. Their first run was to do that, and they got that accomplished with the direction of, a couple of our experienced linemen. So they went and knocked those. I think that was about 400 and some poles all the way across there. Then we got a couple of other areas that we're going to hit here and that was only the half of the group, because when those guys, the other half was in the CDL, they're only available so many hours during the week to do things that they need to do at Mission Valley Power. So we knocked the first section off, first phase off, and the next phase is for this next group of people that didn't get the opportunity to go out there and wrap some poles and provide, infrastructure strengthening. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kudos on the pilot program. I wanted to go back to the customer service quickly because I just thought of it, and I forgot to mention while you were talking about all the different ways transactions occur. So I guess my question was, is if those folks that are on the low income spectrum and have difficulty in making their payments, and the opportunity to do prepay, is there a trigger for that, for your customer service folks to encourage them to go prepay so they don't have to pay disconnect fees and those kind of re-hookup fees?
And when you do prepay, that's a great question, Tom. And it's something that our CRS share with people. That is, if you go prepay, there's not a deposit. That's also a benefit to it. There's not prepay is what you put a certain amount on your system. You go in and you pay $20. You got $20 worth of power at your house. So you can log into the system, into our website, and be able to see where you're at with your power. It gives you the ability to control that. But also, when you run out of power, it automatically turns you off. You make a payment, you can make a payment on phone, online, in person, and all of a sudden you got power again. And there's no, there's no cost for us to go out there and turn the power on for you again, or turn it off, so.
And
there's-
there's no,
And there's
Is there a
great-
number
that's
that
great.
you have for the number of customers you have in that situation?
I can't tell you that off the top of my head, but I can get that to you guys. So, no, it's one of those things, I think it gives you the opportunity, I think, and some people don't, it's funny when you I hear the explanation to it, and some people are, always leery to change and stuff, but it's like, yeah, if you're new to the thing, if you don't want to do a big deposit, if you don't want to worry about late fees or worry about the cost of turning your power back on and off, and you don't want to have the ability to look online and see where you're at, there's a lot of good things to it, so. But I'll get you guys that number. I'll send you an email that talks about the number of people we have on that.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us here. I'm here to talk about the strides that we've made in the engineering department, and I think they've been pretty awesome this year. One of the first things that we've accomplished, well, it wasn't the first thing, but we accomplished hiring an engineer manager, which makes us compliant with our contract. I think it's been some time since like 2015 since we've been able to do that, so I think that's a huge step. The other thing that I think is very important is that we've also have, I believe it's our first tribal member becoming licensed as an engineer, licensed electrical engineer. He passed the exam this year, and I think that really strengthens our utility and future so that we don't have to worry about this in the future. And then another thing that I really think has been pretty awesome is they moved the department up front. So when you come into the building, you'll get not just the customer service side, but you'll get access to the engineering side. So it'll make it feel more business oriented. Welcoming for people, customers coming in. So, I just think it strengthens CSKT, the utility, and the customers on all the things that have been accomplished in the engineering department. There's another thing that we have started this year, and I think Teresa will touch on it here in a little bit, but it's the NEPA, and I kind of brought up the subject, and I was a little leery just because I've had some battles with the NEPA system, but it's not too bad if you have the right people working it. So.
That, to add to that, yeah, it was a great idea that Dan had. He asked me about that NEPA and what are we doing? So you start looking into it, and things have been done a certain way at Mission Valley Power for so many years that NEPA wasn't a big part of that, and it needs to be. And I'm glad Dan brought that up. So we researched it and we got it in place, and moving forward, everything we do that requires NEPA review will have NEPA review.
new services, Courtney, did you want to talk about the new services?
Please can I add one more thing? And Dan did bring up, a great point that we have the only tribal member electric engineer that's licensed. But we have a couple more Zach Felsman is going to be testing here this year. So we could all of a sudden have two on board, and then our third one is Ryan Matthias, and maybe in a couple of years he could be testing. So our Mission Valley Power is heading in the right direction, and we sure appreciate all the help to get there. Thank you.
An additional comment about engineering and new services, and Mike maybe can push the map over just a little, but it was really important today for us to bring this map and show it to you, because we've had just about 2,000 new services since COVID, since 2020. And so when you think about the stuff Seth was talking about earlier and water permits and new innovations with the use of water and people going through that entity, they're seeing it, but we're also seeing it. So you can see where there's 2,000 new services in the area that they're in. In 2024, we've had almost 400. And that is a record. And Cindy later or shortly will talk about one of the policies, the new policies we adopted relative to new services. But clearly, you can see where people are moving and there's a steady stream coming in.
So do we know exactly what our capacity is before we could start saying, hey, we can't do any more hookups here? Because I know we talked about this last year, but it just seems like we keep continuously growing and we're getting more people coming into the valley. And so I didn't know, I don't know. I was just wondering about capacity.
We've bounced around that question and I'll let Mike respond.
Yeah, I think we know when we're over capacity and we're stressing, you know, what a particular transmission system component can handle. What we've looked into in the past is what is our obligation to provide power when we know we're at capacity. We do have an ability, if we know it's going to damage the system or cause shutoffs, to not sign up new construction, new hookups. But yeah, I think as far as the part about what do we know about capacity, I think that's a better question for these folks to answer. But we do have some understanding. It's a gray area. There's not a bright red line that says you can not hook these folks up, but there are some guardrails around it that were pretty workable. So if we're having anything any requests that are going to damage our system, we can put the brakes on that. If someone's outside of our service area or our current infrastructure and the route to get there is burdensome or through, some Montana Department of Transportation easements for wetlands is an issue we've run into. That's not our obligation to get the easement and make sure this customer can cross that MDT part. They got to handle that if we don't have no workaround. So all those things are factored in, and yeah, if the circumstances are right, we can deny new hookups.
Yeah, and the reason why I bring it up is I was just trying to look at reasons on how we can stop subdivisions. You know, because we're starting to get a lot of new proposed subdivisions coming in on fee properties.
Infrastructure to say, look, that subdivision. I think those scenarios.
But, and that's, it's a great question, Lynn, because when we think about it, we just kind of had a little bit of that. When you think of West Shore, it was operating at well over 100%, close to 160%. And we had to make a decision that for West Shore for us to function there correctly, we need to update our substation and get a new transmission. And that's what we did. That's part of the two new substation upgrades we had were at Kerr and West Shore. And West Shore also is on the line of, another big business that's coming in there that's important to us. So it's one of those things where we took a look at it and we made some decisions, and it was part of our condition report that we got at BPA out of a BIA that looked at that area, and it said, hey, that substation is really running high. So we addressed it, and then there's going to be growth, and that area is right behind it. There's a whole bunch of growth that could happen too. So it's working out for us. But the actual report of how big we can get, that's a whole nother conversation that there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that would kind of control that. Add in 400 new customers every year for the next 5 years. I think we're okay. But to get the number that says this is as far as we go would take some more research.
Okay.
So,
And
well,
po-
and it's in the back of my mind, so I always look at different things, but once when we get enough time to just put a lot of focus on that, we'll come back with something that tells you, yeah, this is as much as we can grow without actually putting a whole bunch of more money into infrastructure to handle it.
Okay, so just a quick follow-up. When are we gonna be getting our mobile substation?
We ordered that, and it's just like ordering a new transformer. It takes a couple of years. So, I think we're scheduled. Everything's looking good so far with that, and we're gonna get that probably next summer, and it's gonna work out. It's gonna work out pretty good for when we get it at the time we need it. So that, when you think about it, there's this time, these lead times go on for years. So, the ones I worry about are the Kerr and West Shore transformers that we ordered. They're scheduled to be here in April. So right now we had our utility engineers go out there and with our staff, and we work together to take out a lot of cement and put in new cement before winter hits so it cures. So we've started that process to get ready. So when in April, those two new transformers arrive, they'll be ready to put in the new bus work, and we'll be good to go. So, but the mobile substation is just a little bit behind that because we ordered that after those ones. But it's on works. We can go into energy efficiency.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We're good. Energy efficiency.
We're going to the page on energy efficiency. I'm not trying to do all the talking for our team today, but these are the pages I got because these are the ones I really like, and I'm super excited. Lyle at our office, Lyle Nice, does a good job of reaching out there and getting to the people and working on them to, become energy efficient. If you see that picture there, with the Charlotte school system, in the past 6 months, where we've written them a check for $117,000 for all the things, that rebate checks that they're doing for energy efficiency. And, that's been a great thing. And if you look at it, the projected kilowatt hour savage is about 422,000, which could, on average, medium homes, about 35 of them, provide the power for 35 homes for an entire year. Go ahead, Jenna.
Is our maintenance department doing all of those things in all of our tribal buildings?
We'd have to go to executive session to have that conversation.
Okay.
What we need to do is, and that's something I told Lyle to get with our people here, to make sure we're getting all the rebate advantages, because right now we're not getting enough, including Mission Valley Power. We're looking at, getting the rebate for, updating those two substations. There's going to be a rebate for that too. So we have to go out there and reach and get it. We're working close, and we're trying to get everybody up to speed on that. Okay. Good question. Go ahead, Brent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, Zach, this energy efficiency, that Charlotte got there for the school, the new school in RD is being built too, and I was wondering if, there's a possibility that, you could help them with some of that too.
With the new school they're building, is that what you said?
Yeah, they're building a new school down there in RD, so.
I seen that when I was driving by. I will double check with Lyle to make sure they're doing, and definitely when you're doing new construction right now, you should probably do all the things that will benefit the school and do it as energy efficient as possible. I will make sure Lyle has checked, because he hasn't mentioned that to me, and I'm not saying it hasn't been done. He could have had conversations with them already, but I'll double check with him and send you guys an email that kind of describes where we're at. And give you, maybe what I'll also do is give you an idea of all the different businesses and schools that he's talking to currently. So I'll send you an email that shows you where he's at right now. You know, kind of going back to RLE, they reached out to me, you know, about when you had those big windstorms go through and they lost all their poles over there and they got knocked over. When I was at Charlotte, you know, delivering this check and doing this deal, they talked about their poles that got knocked over in the windstorm. So it's something that the board has kind of given me a little direction that let's go out there and help. And if this is one of those areas that we can help, we'll do it. And if it requires a donation, then we're doing a donation. You know, the one thing, their poles, they for those football fields are big, giant, tall poles. They're not like the poles that we have for our lights and stuff. So, you know, I've been working with the superintendent over there and seeing what they're going to get accomplished through their insurance through their insurance. But if where we can help setting poles up, you know, connecting those kind of things, we will do. So.
And now we'll go to the 2 pages on safety and environmental compliance. They're kind of orange colored. If we think about environmental compliance, you know, we kind of joked about Dan bringing it up, but it was much more serious than that. We have been responsible to meet all federal regulations in the contract, which includes NEPA. Mission Valley Power in the past did not routinely do that with these big projects. It was Dan that brought it up, and it was actually Dan that caught, through his study of emails, his diligence, that he caught that initially there was a question on the applicability of the regulations we were using. And that was really cool because he's really invested in the success of the utility. He wants to do it right. He will say, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. So that was really great. Zach picked the ball up. The 2 NEPA documents went into Portland, one for Kerr, one for West Shore. They were approved. The next NEPA document will be for Finley Point, and that one we know will be our most complicated. So, but we'll continue to refine that. On the MVP maintenance report, I had to arm wrestle the other board members because I said this was the most important page and I wanted it. And the only reason why it's so important is because if you look at the duties, we have a fiduciary duty to manage, maintain, repair, and replace the distribution system. And when we do that for the council, the contractor, because we want reliable service and more importantly, we help you meet your contractual obligation. Zach, this year, I think one of his toughest assignments that we gave him was to change the way payroll is accounted for at MVP and change the way they do work orders so that at any given moment, we know who's working on what and we can report it. With the BIA condition assessment, we're supposed to be spending roughly $900,000 annually on deferred maintenance. And our little pie chart in the corner, you can see that we're beginning to meet that goal. And that is totally awesome. This year we accounted for 128,000 of expenditures in deferred maintenance. And then because we're so focused on the new projects and the replacements on system maintenance, we've invested 3.3 million. That's payroll costs. That orange section, that's payroll. And at the same time, with the 3.3 million, we invested 352,000 in materials. But at any moment, if the BIA comes back and they want to hold your feet to the fire and say, what are you doing with maintenance, deferred maintenance? We've began the process to do that. While these two figures set a baseline, and I believe if you look back in your old MVP reports, we weren't as fine-tuned with the payroll numbers. So these might be a baseline, and in future years, we'll continue to refine those numbers. And you'll see there's a footnote on that page that says, the tracking of maintenance labor has only been implemented for a portion of the fiscal year due to transition in work order procedures. And the maintenance labor number is the estimated total. The most important thing, while it's not perfect, we've got the basic structure to do it. And that was met with a bit of resistance. So Zach was diligent. He led the charge, and which helps us meet that contract requirement. So we're thrilled that we're beginning to report that to you, and we will continue to do that. Maintenance is about future system reliability for our friends, our family, and our community.
I remember when we first got the report and the board kept asking for the report and it was never given to us. And Richard just beat that to death till we finally walked in one day and it was sitting on a table. And he knew immediately what that was. And he went over there and grabbed it when we weren't supposed to have it, but that opened it up. And Zach came in with his feet to the fire over deferred maintenance, and he's done a great job, and Teresa's been leading the charge, so that's been really good. When we move into the financial part of Mission Valley Power, goals are set over there. You know, there's a budget that's put out quite early. You never know during the year what's going to happen, what kind of things might cause the budget to really go out of whack. But the staff over there is so good about forecasting what's going to happen, and then they work really hard to meet what's put down on paper so that at the end of the year they have a good report to give. And I just can't believe that over the years they always hit it really well. So you can see what the budget has been for the last year and what it's projected to be for next year. So you can go down that, and on the next page is the operating statement for 2024 fiscal year. At the end of the year, we had an operating, a total cash expense that met what the goal was. So they did a super job on that. Payroll, if you look at the pie chart, payroll takes up a quarter of that pie. The power purchases take up a half of that pie. And then you can see the smaller portions are the other parts of the budget that get spent. So I'll just let you read through those numbers. And oh yeah, I forgot. The board made a decision during the year that to meet the ending budget, we were going to have to do something. So we looked at the aid to construction that is giving out to people that are new customers to Mission Valley Power. So you come in, sign up that you're going to put in a new house. We used to give those people aid to construction dollars. We quit doing that. And that's what made a difference in this budget. And that's how we were able to meet the budget at the end of the year, was by doing that. A lot of other utilities don't do that. But we were still doing that. And I remember when we first started doing that, And I questioned that. I said, why do we do this? And the answer I got back then was to help people that are new move into this area. Well, now we're thinking, oh, wow, we need to, you know.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of crazy, but the aid to construction has made the difference, and like $1 million to help keep the utility in budget. So it was a $500 credit. So
You know, got a question? Oh, Tom?
Well, I had a question, just when I look at the budget and I add up the payroll, fringe and defined benefits, and you have 70 employees, that averages out at $162,000 per employee. Now, I gotta venture to say that there is no other entity on the reservation that has that kind of a payroll per average per employee. So I appreciate the due diligence that the board has done in negotiating and working with the union and union benefits, et cetera. So I just want to remind you that that's a powerful, powerful amount of money that's laying right there that's being described in a nonprofit.
it is, and you know, years ago, the board didn't have any say-so in that. It was done by someone over here who met with the union, and they'd come back and say, okay, you got to do this and this and this. And I'd say, what? We don't even know about that. How did that happen? Well, that was negotiated in union. Guess what? That doesn't happen anymore. They've met Teresa, and that's going to end. I mean, she's there, you know, leading the charge there also. So it's going to be different, I believe, in the future. And Zach. Zach's a good negotiator too. So.
And Mike and Shane.
Yeah. There's a lot of work goes into it anymore.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate you. I know Mike and Shane have been a part of that. And I just want to thank you all for that, because it's just a glaring thing that it's amazing to me. I want to back up to the environmental compliance and talk about the maintenance a little bit. You know, there was a time we thought that every pole out there might be a Superfund site because of tree, creosote or penta. It's a carcinogen. It causes cancer. So it's been a trend in the world. It's actually outlawed in many progressive industrial countries, the use of penta. So I guess my question is that I've always been advocating for underground, that we go underground as much as possible. It's so much easier to the environment to not have these treated poles everywhere, and to think of how reliable the power could be we're gonna have a rain event tonight. In wind or rain or ice or snow or whatever you want to call it, fire, you know, just to simply having to go out and fireproof your poles. If there's a way to focus more on underground, and it would certainly behoove us, because I think of just a sheer number of new customers and the number of poles you're planting out there, that each one of them is a toxic site. And we don't use treated lumber in our water courses. We don't allow treated material in our docks or our bridges, in our natural waterways, but we do allow it to go into the ground still here in many places and on our own reservation. I just want to think of our landscape as all we got. And so I want to encourage you to think of how we are impacting that environment with our infrastructure to provide the great power that you're doing to our individual communities and tribal membership. But it is a tremendous issue.
Yeah.
Mostly creosote plant sites, penetrate sites where they develop it or they do the treat are Superfund sites. And so
you know, and Tom, that is the Vice Chairman McDonald. That is true. Those are the kind of things that we have to wrestle with, because you know, the cost of doing underground is a lot more than overhead. And so that would mean that we would do less overhead stuff until we got a rate that would incorporate the cost of doing underground as much as we can. It's not that I don't share that knowledge with our staff and say, any place that we can go underground now, let's focus on doing that. but the cost of it just takes away from, and it's something that we have to wrestle with. And it's one of those things that, until you get the rate in place that can cover those costs, so we can continue to address infrastructure. You know, that's what I try to focus on. I do understand. You can't put a cost on a life, because that's a no-win situation. So what I can tell you is that everywhere where we have the opportunity right now to do it, and normally it's in shorter areas, and we're trying to get that incorporated. Right now, it's funny, all the underground that we got in place 20 years ago are all the spots that we're continuing to have to hit and update. So it's one of those things that we understand it. It's just,
Martin, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I assume you've been working with contracts and grants on this? Or you will
Yes,
do them?
we've notified Charlene. We followed all the procurement. Well, with property and supply for capital equipment purchases. And like I say, we probably won't know if we receive this grant till March, and then we'll be making those purchases.
Make a motion.
Motion by Martin, second by Tom to approve the pursuit of this grant and the resolution, giving it foundation. All in favor? Unanimous. We'll go get us some money and get an office.
Oh, well, Janet, can we kind of, we need, Mr. Chairman, we also start working on the FSIS, which is the USDA certification that will be required as we operate this plant. So you need to be expecting that, because you're going to be signing it on behalf of the tribes until we get the corporate structure in place.
So I emailed that to Greg and to you, Mr. Chairman, this morning right before lunch. And it's basically the application for inspection, but it takes about a year to get all the way through the process. So the sooner we get that in, the better. We're anticipating that we can hopefully begin operations next winter. But we can amend that application, and we can also amend it with the new corporation when that gets named. So, but Friesla, the company we're working with, they have set up multiple plants, and they recommend we get this application in ASAP. So it needs a digital signature, and it should be in your inbox.
I see it now. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And then I just wanted to advise you, we are also going to be putting in for another state grant called Growth Through Agriculture. So we'll be coming back next month with a request to apply for that as well.
Thank you, Velda. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Velda and Janet, for your hard work on this project. I have one question, because we have the irrigation folks coming in, I think, next Thursday. So one of the issues that came up in utilizing that property was the ditch. And so I think there was, at least I mentioned it, I think you were pursuing it, either Janet or Velda, to work with Dewar to try to see if we can't bury put that ditch in a pipe.
Mm-hmm.
So you have any headway with that, or do we need to bring it up on Thursday?
We've made progress, but go ahead, Janet, tell them specifically what we need.
Okay, so we have a design for burying the ditch into pipe. We have requested a permit from FIP, but they have not approved the permit yet. Dewar has reviewed our design, and they have approved it. Dewar has agreed to pay the cost of the pipe, but not the installation. So we're waiting for FIP to give us the final go-ahead so we can order the pipe. And then once we get some bids on the pipe, and we will provide that to Dewar, and then they'll approve the vendor that we order it from before we place our final order. We have included that also in the scope of work for the contractor to install that. And that contractor will have to subcontract with a company that can do the pipe fusing, because that's the type of pipe that Dewar wants us to use, is a type that has to be fused rather than bolted together, I guess.
So they split hairs on providing the pipe and not providing the installation?
Yes.
And what was the justification for that?
They said that they're so swamped with projects that they really could not be responsible for installation or design. So we paid for the design, and we were going to include the installation in our construction contract for the plant.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, yeah, I would, I think it's in the ideal situation for the betterment of the irrigation project is to pipe and line as much as possible of it for the efficiency of the system. And when you're in a community and within the city limits of a community and you consider the human health safety factor for young children, and then the potential for mosquito-borne diseases and gnats, et cetera, West Nile virus and everything else that's coming at us. I just can't imagine where we wouldn't just jump on any of these urban interface projects with the canal or the irrigation project and, bury and line all of those, or put them in a canal or put them in a pipe. It's just in our best interest. And especially with land that we own and we're using for economic development, I would just venture to say it would be in our best interest to line the entire ditch on that property if it's not going to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
It's been quite a process. We did work with Gordon Wind, their engineer, and then our engineer. We were looking at having them manufacture the concrete inlet and outlet boxes, but Phipps said they don't have enough staff. So we go back and forth because it's like our project, we're the guinea pigs right now. And we're just trying to figure it out ourselves. But right now we do have Dewar's support. So hopefully we'll get it constructed.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thank you, Velda and Janet, for being to break the paradigm here, to think in new ways. So thank you. Appreciate your work on it and keeping with it.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, if there's a way you could convince Dewar to pay for the installation costs and we could have that bid separately, that would be wonderful. That would help us on our construction costs for the plant.
I think that's what Tom's aiming at.
Great.
We'll check into that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zelda. Thank you, Janet.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Can we go back into executive?
We will go out of regular, back into executive.
Chair, make the motion to approve the resolution.
Motion by Tom, second by Bing. All in favor? Unanimous. Martin out of the room.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Dan.
Can we go back into executive for the last issue?
We will go out of executive to regular. Thank you, Carol. Yep. Thank you all. Jay Hoy.